My wife presented an open marriage proposal. After 10 years, saying it would help us grow as a couple, I said sure. Now I have a partner who actually appreciates me, and my wife suddenly wants the rules changed back. Hey Reddit, my wife wanted to explore and convinced me to open our marriage. So I said fine, let's try it. Biggest mistake of my life. She lit a match, burned everything down, and thought I'd just stand there. Before we get into the chaos, let me start from the beginning. I, 33, male. 10 years with the same woman. Married for 8. College sweethearts who thought being each other's first and only meant something. Turns out only I believed it. I optimize freight railway routes for a living. Move 200 train cars across 17 states without them burning money and switching yards. 93,000 a year. Predictability pays. Vanessa was a quiet dental hygienist when we met. Observed more than she spoke. In college, where everyone performed constantly, her stillness felt deliberate, thoughtful. I mistook it for contentment. We married at 23. Families approved. No red flags. Shared values. Stable routines. Matching trajectories. For years it functioned fine. Friday movies, Saturday chores, Sunday prep. Me building life around structure. Her fitting neatly into it. Intimacy existed but felt scheduled. She never initiated. Never refused either. Participation isn't desire, but I ignored the implication. 18 months ago, she took a job at a corporate wellness company. Better pay, real advancement. I pushed her to take it. Thought I was supporting her. Really, I was clearing runway for someone else. First month, she complained about not fitting in. I coached her through it. Persist, show value, contribute. She did. Made friends with 4 women. I was relieved at first. Then everything shifted. She came home later. Just enough minutes to notice. Walked in buzzing, then dimmed when she saw me. Her phone became constant. During dinner, movies, conversations. Just the work chat, she said. But the secrecy grew obvious. Bedroom intimacy fell apart. Declining frequency, declining interest, declining connection. I brought it up gently. She dismissed it as work stress. Promised things would settle. They didn't. Around month 5, she started talking about Troy. New supervisor? Seattle transfer? At first it was harmless anecdotes, then comparisons. Troy handled this by doing X. Troy thinks Y. She was showing me alternative models of competence, like she was studying him. One night she quoted his philosophy about authenticity, with a tone you save for profits. I asked if she had feelings for him. She accused me of insecurity, said I didn't want her to grow. It shut the conversation down, but didn't settle anything. A week later, mid-documentary, she paused the screen and asked if I regretted not experiencing more before settling down. I said no. She was enough. She looked disappointed, like she'd hoped for a different answer. 2 weeks after that, she proposed opening our marriage, framed it as revitalization, exploration, removing pressure so we could choose each other freely. I laughed. She didn't. Her expression said she'd rehearsed all of this. I asked if this was about Troy. She denied it too quickly. Said she didn't want to hit 50 with regrets. Said I was her foundation, her safety, and opening the marriage was the ethical alternative to divorce. If you want to see other people, I told her, we separate first. She backpedaled immediately. Said she was brainstorming. Said I was overreacting. But the seed was planted. She'd revealed exactly how she saw us. Bedroom intimacy died completely. Mechanical, when it happened at all. She'd finish, shower, and vanish into her phone. 4 weeks later, she brought it up again. This time with a speech about monogamy being limiting. About needing more from life. About how she loved me but wasn't fulfilled. The framing made me the obstacle. I asked about Troy. This time she admitted they'd discussed open relationships. That he'd encouraged honest communication. I saw the architecture instantly. His ideology, her voice. You want to sleep with your boss, I said. You're trying to get my permission so it won't feel like cheating. She insisted it wasn't like that. I didn't argue. Just told her I needed time. I slept in the guest room. She didn't follow. Next morning I called my brother. Family law. He told me to document everything. Dates, messages, behavior shifts. Not because divorce was certain, but because clarity matters when things get slippery. I spent 3 days running numbers. Cost of leaving versus staying. Cost of 10 years versus cost of 10 more. Turned it into a model because numbers don't hurt. Models don't mourn wasted time. Part of me hoped she'd wake up from whatever this was. Part of me feared being alone. Part of me didn't want to admit I'd built a life with someone who didn't want it. Finally, I told her we could try it. But not a year. 3 months. With rules. Calendar transparency. Bi-weekly check-ins. Protection mandatory. No overnights, no falling in love, and one hard line. If she brings someone to our house, the trial ends immediately. That space was ours, non-negotiable. We wrote it down. She signed it, looked relieved, energized. She started dating within 3 days. That first night she went out. I tried focusing on work, had route maps due for a new freight corridor. Instead, I kept staring at the clock. 11 p.m. was the agreed upon return time. Be home or communicate. Basic. 11 passed. Midnight. No text. No call. I moved to the guest room and started packing a go bag. Not everything, just enough to leave if I needed to. Clothes, documents, chargers. I didn't know if I'd use it, but having the option mattered. Her car finally pulled in around 1. She walked in glowing, hair messy, lipstick smeared. Didn't bother to hide it. Saw me in the doorway with the half-packed bag. What are you doing? Setting up in here. I'm not sharing a bed with someone who can't follow basic agreements. I just lost track of time. You broke the first rule on the first night. You're being dramatic. I closed my laptop. We had one agreement. Communication. You couldn't manage it for 3 hours. Her smile vanished. She apologized fast. Promised alarms, reminders, structure. I didn't respond. I slept in the guest room. She didn't try to stop me. Lying there hearing her shower, I realized I'd made a mistake. I'd told myself I was being progressive, mature. Instead, my wife had just come home from another man, and I was supposed to regulate my emotions like a machine, because we wrote a contract. Next morning, she brought coffee. Apologized again. I accepted it, but stayed in the guest room. 3 weeks in, she broke the overnight rule. I woke to an empty house. She came home at 8, hair wet. I fell asleep, she said. Driving home tired would have been unsafe. I reminded her of the rule. She said I was being technical, that the spirit of the rule wasn't violated. I didn't end it. Should have. Didn't. Because ending it meant admitting the marriage was actually over, and I wasn't ready for that yet. So I just moved further into the guest room emotionally and told myself I was being patient. Second time it happened, I packed a bag and left for my brother's place. Texted her. Taking space, we'll talk Sunday. She called 19 times that day. Left crying voicemails. Said I was abandoning her. Said she'd made a mistake. I didn't answer. Sunday, 2 p.m., coffee shop. She looked wrecked. I need you to come home. I don't know if I can keep doing this. Please. If it happens again, any rule, not just overnights, I'm done completely. She agreed instantly. I returned to the guest room. The pattern didn't stop. She'd come home from dates, walk past my office without a word, go straight to shower. I'd try to initiate something days later just to feel connected, and she'd push me away. Too tired. She wasn't too tired hours earlier. I started understanding what I actually was to her. The foundation she built her exploration on. The safety net. The backup plan, while she tried out the authentic life she claimed she'd been missing. Her friends visited constantly, especially Cheryl with the grating laugh. You're setting such a standard, she'd tell me. Most men would never handle this. She said it like praise, but it felt like I was being studied, like they were using my marriage as proof their lifestyle worked. Month 2, Vanessa insisted I attend her company's summer event. I knew why. She wanted me to meet Troy, to normalize the situation, to show everyone she'd evolved beyond convention, and I was proof of her enlightenment. Hotel ballroom, open bar. She dragged me to her group. Cheryl, Monica, and 2 interchangeable friends. Cheryl grinned. So you're the progressive husband. Impressive. Vanessa explained our arrangement with the confidence of someone delivering a keynote. Monica just watched me quietly, actually listening. 20 minutes later, Troy appeared. Tall, fit, expensive suit. Commanded space like he owned it. There's my team, he said. Then to me, and you must be the understanding husband. His handshake was firm. Professional. Vanessa talks about you constantly, he added. Sounds like you two have something pretty unique worked out. It's working for us, I said. That's great. Really. Most people can't handle that level of openness. Takes a secure person. He said it like a compliment, but the subtext was clear. Secure could mean confident, could also mean compliant. His hand moved to her lower back mid-conversation. Casual gesture, easy familiarity. She leaned into it slightly, comfortable with the touch in a way she hadn't been with mine in months. I watched them for another minute, her laughing at something he said, him standing close enough that their shoulders touched. Then I set my drink down and walked out. In my car, I sat there thinking about what I'd just watched. My wife leaning into another man's touch while I stood there like furniture. Drove to a bar across town just to sit somewhere quiet. Stayed there 3 hours replaying the whole thing. Drove home eventually. Vanessa was waiting, anxious. We need to talk about you leaving. No, we're talking boundaries. If he touches you like that again in front of me, this whole thing ends. You're being jealous? That's the line. Back to the guest room. She cried in the living room for an hour. I didn't check. Week later, I came home early from work, found his car in our driveway, heard voices upstairs, walked into our bedroom, my bedroom, and found them together. She scrambled up, eyes wide, started explaining, apologizing, saying it wasn't what it looked like, even though it was exactly what it looked like. Troy stood there adjusting his shirt, assessing whether to placate me or escalate. I didn't yell, didn't throw anything, just looked at her. You brought him here, into our house. The one rule that actually mattered. I know, but pack a bag. You have the weekend to figure out where you're staying. I want you out by Monday. Please, we're done. The trial's over. She started crying, reaching for me. I walked past her, went to the guest room, and locked the door. Troy left. She knocked on my door for 2 hours. I didn't answer. She spent the weekend at Cheryl's texting constantly. Promises, apologies, explanations. I didn't read them. Monday, she came back, took her essentials, and left. Stayed at Cheryl's place for the next 2 weeks while I tried figuring out what came next. Meanwhile, I forced myself to try dating since the trial was effectively dead anyway. Made a profile. Went on dates. But the moment things got physical, I'd shut down. Permission on paper didn't override instinct. Month 3, I met Jiwon in a coffee shop. I knew why. She wanted me to meet Troy. To normalize the situation. To show everyone she'd evolved beyond convention, and I was proof of her enlightenment. Hotel ballroom, open bar. She dragged me to her group. Cheryl, Monica, and 2 interchangeable friends. Cheryl grinned. So you're the progressive husband. Impressive. Vanessa explained our arrangement with the confidence of someone delivering a keynote. Monica just watched me quietly, actually listening. 20 minutes later, Troy appeared. Tall, fit, expensive suit. Commanded space like he thought he owned it. There's my team, he said. Then, to me, and you must be the understanding husband. His handshake was too firm, intentional. Vanessa talks about you constantly, he added. Says you're the most flexible partner she could ask for. Flexible. The implication echoed. Pliable. Permissive. Convenient. She's happy, I said. That's what matters. He smiled like he'd won something. Exactly. Life's too short for outdated constraints. Vanessa's finally operating at full capacity instead of being held back. My jaw tightened. He squeezed her shoulder. Casually, possessively. Growth requires a supportive environment, he said. Meaning, me. Vanessa tried redirecting, but he stayed angled toward me. Then he put his hand on her lower back mid-conversation. Rested it there. Casual. Proprietary. She didn't move. Leaned slightly toward him. He caught my eye and smirked. I set my drink down and walked out. In my car, I sat there thinking about what I'd just watched. My wife leaning into another man's touch while I stood there like furniture. Drove to a bar across town just to sit somewhere quiet. Stayed there 3 hours replaying the whole thing. Drove home eventually. Vanessa was waiting, anxious. We need to talk about you leaving. No, we're talking boundaries. If he touches you like that again in front of me, this whole thing ends. You're being jealous. That's the line. Back to the guest room. She cried in the living room for an hour. I didn't check. Meanwhile, I forced myself to try dating since she was living freely. Made a profile, went on dates, but the moment things got physical, I'd shut down. Permission on paper didn't override instinct. Month 3, I met Jiwon in a coffee shop. Korean, early 30s, industrial designer. Saw her smile politely when her order was wrong. Something about that small grace caught me. Next day, she was there again. 3rd day, we talked. 4th day, I asked her to dinner. We went for Korean BBQ. She taught me how not to burn the meat. We talked about Busan, design, railway optimization, families, choices, escapes. Then we talked about my marriage. I told her I was married in an open arrangement I never wanted, that I'd agreed out of fear, not desire, that I probably shouldn't be dating at all. She didn't leave. She asked one question. Why did you agree? I didn't have an honest answer until she said it for me. So you're doing this for her, not for you. Exactly. She didn't treat me like a malfunctioning system the way I treated myself. She challenged me, called out my metaphors, pointed out where my logic hit emotion. Vanessa eventually noticed I was going out more. Are you seeing someone? She asked. Yes. She looked satisfied, then asked how serious. I kept it vague. She returned to her phone. Things with Jiwon stayed casual for a while. Coffee twice a week, dinner occasionally. talking about everything except the obvious question of where this was going. She never pushed, never asked me to leave Vanessa, just existed as proof that connection could feel different than what I had. Month 5, things became physical. Happened naturally at her apartment after dinner. Afterwards, we talked until 3 a.m. She asked about my marriage. Not with jealousy, just curiosity. Asked what I'd hoped would happen when I agreed to open it. I told her the truth. I hadn't been happy for a long time. That I'd maintained routines because I didn't know what else to do. Because admitting it was dead felt like admitting I'd wasted 10 years on something that had never actually worked. She didn't tell me to leave Vanessa. Didn't push. Just said whatever decision I made should be based on what made me feel alive. Not safe. 2 weeks later, Vanessa was waiting when I got home from G1's on a Sunday evening. Nervous. Twisting her wedding ring. We need to talk. I sat down across from her and waited. I want to close the marriage. This was a mistake. I want to refocus on us. What changed? She gave the scripted answers. Reflection. Missing our connection. Realizing exploration wasn't worth it. So I asked about Troy. She said they'd ended things. Mutual. Not sustainable long-term. When exactly? Couple weeks ago. Why? Because I realized what we have is more important. I stood, walked to the kitchen. She followed. You don't believe me, she said. No. Why not? Because you're lying. Troy didn't end things mutually. He dumped you. Her face went white. She started crying. I'd only been guessing. Her reaction confirmed everything. She broke down and told me the whole story. 3 weeks earlier, Troy had begun distancing himself. Short replies, canceled plans, excuses about work. She'd scrambled to fix it, changed her schedule, bought new clothes, tried being more exciting, more available, more whatever she thought he wanted. None of it mattered. She'd cornered him after a meeting, demanding clarity. He'd been brutally honest. It had been fun, but he wasn't looking for anything serious. He dated multiple people casually. He'd never promised exclusivity, a future, or the fantasy she'd constructed. Told her maybe she should focus on her husband instead of chasing something that was never happening. She'd sat in her car for 2 hours afterward, realizing she'd blown up her marriage for a man who saw her as temporary entertainment. Through tears, she added something I didn't process fully at the time. She'd felt invisible for years. Said I talked more about railway efficiency than her feelings. Said Troy made her feel seen. I listened and felt, not nothing exactly, something uncomfortable. A flicker of recognition I didn't want to examine, because part of what she said wasn't entirely wrong. I had treated our marriage like a system to optimize instead of a relationship to nurture. Intimacy on schedule, conversations about logistics, emotional connection as checkbox maintenance. But acknowledging that now felt like accepting blame for her choices. Like admitting I'd driven her to this. I hadn't. She could have talked to me, could have asked for counseling, could have ended things honestly instead of rigging up this elaborate permission structure to avoid calling it what it was. Still, the discomfort sat there. What did your friends say? I asked, moving past it. She hesitated. You told them, right? About him dumping you? I tried. They said I was overreacting, that this happens, that I should just find someone else. Her support system wasn't support, just echo chambers keeping her committed to bad choices. So you cut them off? Not yet. Why not? No answer. You want to close the marriage because your affair partner dumped you. Not because you want us. Not because you love me. Because your preferred option disappeared. That's not fair. I'm still seeing Jiwon. Her tears evaporated. Anger took their place. You need to end that. If we're fixing this, we're not fixing anything. You opened the marriage to be with Troy. Now you want to close it because it blew up. That's not how this works. She started hyperventilating, curling inward, using her breakdown like leverage. I need time, I said. You had 5 months to figure yourself out. I'm not making decisions while you're in crisis mode. Please don't leave. I'll be back tomorrow. We'll talk then. I left. Went to Jiwon's. She opened the door and pulled me inside without a word. We sat quietly until I could speak. I told her everything. Vanessa wanting to close the marriage, Troy dumping her, the implosion of it all. She listened, then asked, What do you want? I don't know. She let that sit a moment. Then, Are you staying because you love her? Or because you don't want to admit you built 10 years on the wrong foundation? Those are different. I thought about it. Really thought. Not in logistics. In truth, I didn't love Vanessa. Maybe I never had. Maybe I'd stayed out of habit, fear, inertia, anything except genuine connection. I don't love her anymore, I said. Saying it out loud settled something. Then handle it properly, Ji-won told me. Don't drag it out. Don't keep her waiting for a decision you've already made. Fair. Next morning, I called my brother, told him to file. You sure? Yeah, I'm done. I brought him everything I'd documented, texts a mutual friend had forwarded months earlier, proving the emotional affair started before the open marriage conversation. Messages showing she and Troy had planned how she'd approach me. My brother nodded. This shows deception. Courts consider conduct. This helps. File it. Vanessa called 19 times that day, left voicemails sobbing about counseling, working through things, fixing what we had. I didn't pick up. 4 days later, she was served at work. She called instantly, hysterical. How could you do this to me? After you spent 5 months with someone else? After planning it with him before even talking to me? I made mistakes. You made choices. Deliberate ones. You're with Jiwon. I met her after you'd already destroyed us. Don't pretend it's the same. Silence. Do you love her? She asked. What you think stopped mattering when you fell in love with Troy? I hung up. Blocked her number. Divorce took 5 months. Vanessa contested everything. Claimed I'd abandoned her emotionally, that I'd used the open marriage as an excuse to check out, that I'd started seeing Jiwon while we were working on things. My brother built a precise timeline, showed she'd proposed the open marriage specifically to pursue Troy, showed the emotional affair that existed before any agreement, showed I followed the rules while she violated them repeatedly, showed the texts where she and Troy strategized how she should present it to me. The judge skimmed everything, asked a few timeline questions, and looked thoroughly unsurprised. She'd clearly seen this exact pattern 100 times. Someone blows up a marriage for an affair, the affair fizzles, and suddenly the spouse becomes the villain of the story. Divorce granted. Clean 50-50 split. No support, no kids. Just 10 wasted years officially ending. The paperwork finalized in late spring. We sold the house over the next 2 months, split the proceeds, divided the furniture neither of us wanted, donated most of it. It was easier to start from zero than keep reminders. During those months, I spent most evenings with Jiwon, not rushing, just existing, cooking dinner together, her teaching me Korean dishes I'd inevitably mess up despite her patient instruction, watching movies, talking about design and logistics, her family in Busan, my stubborn inability to talk about emotions without turning them into systems diagrams. But she noticed everything, especially when I wasn't fully present. One night I'd been distant. Vanessa had sent another text begging for counseling, and finally Jiwon set her chopsticks down. I need to know if you're actually here, she said, or if I'm just convenient. I won't do the placeholder thing again. You're not. Then what am I? You're still reacting to your wife emotionally, even if you don't respond to her. You say you want this, but you haven't actually chosen it. She was right. I'd been in limbo, half tied to a marriage I no longer wanted, half leaning into something new without fully committing. I'm choosing you, I said. She heard the hesitation anyway. When you really know, she said softly, tell me. Until then, I need space. We took a 2-week break. Brutal. I kept going to the coffee shop where we met and finding her table empty. I'd cook dinner and realize I'd started seasoning things the way she taught me. I'd reach for my phone to text her something funny and stop myself. I realized how much better life felt with her in it, and how unfair I'd been by expecting her to sit quietly while I worked through emotional debris I hadn't created. When the divorce finalized, paper stamped, judge's signature making it permanent, I called her. It's done. Official. Are you sure? She asked. Because I need you to be sure. I'm sure. I want this. I want you. Not as an escape. As a choice. We started fresh. Slower. With intention. 3 weeks later, while organizing documents, I found a credit card statement addressed to both me and Vanessa. Balance. $41,000. I'd never seen the card before. I called the company. Learned she'd added me as an authorized user 2 years earlier. Without my knowledge. Most charges were from the past year. Hotels, restaurants, flights to places she'd claimed were work conferences. And then it clicked. Months earlier, she'd insisted we go paperless to reduce clutter. I'd thanked her for being organized. She'd used that to hide everything. I called my brother. Because I wasn't a joint account holder, the legal angle was different, but unauthorized addition combined with affair spending was still actionable. He filed a motion to reopen the asset division. Her attorney claimed business expenses. My brother demanded receipts. She had none. Couldn't justify a single charge. It took 4 months of hearings, continuances, depositions, and legal back and forth. Her attorney kept stalling, requesting extensions, filing motions to dismiss. My brother kept pushing. Then we hit a problem. The judge ruled that, because I was listed as an authorized user, even without my knowledge, I had theoretical access to the card statements. Her attorney argued I should have discovered the charges earlier. My failure to review statements regularly meant I'd implicitly accepted the spending. My brother fought it, argued the paperless setup was deliberate concealment, but the judge wasn't convinced, dismissed half the claim. We appealed the dismissal, submitted more evidence showing her systematic pattern of hiding financial information. 3 more months of waiting, briefing, arguing. Eventually, the judge reconsidered, ruled she owed me $17,000 instead of the original $34,000, payable monthly over 3 years. She left a screaming voicemail about how I was bankrupting her, ruining her life, punishing her. I deleted it. Finding that card made me wonder what else I'd missed. I spent a weekend reviewing old statements I'd saved before everything went paperless. Found regular transfers to Cheryl's account, 200 here, 300 there, starting early in the open marriage. Over 18 months, $23,000. My brother filed another motion. Cheryl claimed these were loan repayments for clothes and date expenses. No contracts, no messages, no proof, just vague stories. 5 months of legal wrestling followed. Cheryl reversed details constantly in deposition. Her attorney stalled endlessly, filed motions, requested continuances, tried every delay tactic available. The judge eventually lost patience and ordered Vanessa to reimburse $11,000. My half. More monthly payments, more obligations. Her life collapsed accordingly. She moved to a smaller apartment, downgraded her car, took weekend retail shifts to cover the payments. Meanwhile, I got promoted, senior analyst. Better pay, more responsibility. And G1 and I moved in together. We found a place that belonged to neither of us before. Somewhere we could actually build something new instead of cleaning up old ghosts. For once, life felt stable, predictable in the right ways, surprising in the good ones. Vanessa's chaos kept shrinking behind me, month by month, like a distant fire finally burning itself out. Early fall, 7 months after the divorce finalized, Monica called, Vanessa's former co-worker from the wellness company. Said she had information I needed to see. We met at a lunch spot downtown. She arrived wearing sunglasses even though we were indoors, glancing around like she expected someone to follow her. Vanessa's lying about everything, she said immediately. Telling people you were controlling, that you isolated her, that you cheated first. I can't keep watching it. Someone needs to know the truth. She handed me a folder. Screenshots, message logs, photos of archived conversations. Vanessa and her friends strategizing affairs, coordinating cover-ups, discussing how to keep me unaware. Monica explained she maintained the department's communication archives, compliance, onboarding, continuity. When Vanessa used the company system to plan her personal life, everything auto-saved into folders Monica had to manage. I didn't go digging, she said. It was just there. I asked why HR hadn't acted. Monica sighed. The company only intervenes when something directly affects performance. Troy brought in huge revenue. People had complained before, women saying they felt uncomfortable, that he flirted inappropriately, but it was always vague. No one wanted to make it formal because everyone knew he'd fight back legally. So the company's solution was to transfer him every couple of years. Portland, Seattle, Phoenix. Same pattern. Then she told me Troy wasn't Vanessa's only affair. There were at least 3 men before we ever agreed to open anything. One was married. His wife found out and threatened to tell me. Vanessa paid her $8,000 from our joint account to keep quiet. Why tell me now? I asked. Because she cut me off, Monica said. I told her maybe she should fix her marriage instead of destroying it. She hasn't spoken to me since. And now she's telling people I tried to sabotage her. I'm done being quiet. I thanked her, took the folder straight to my brother, and he filed a motion to reopen the asset division again. It took 3 months of legal battles. Vanessa's attorney argued the divorce was final. My brother argued fraud during marriage changes the terms. Judge reviewed everything and allowed it. Another hearing scheduled 6 weeks out. More evidence submitted. More depositions. More lies dismantled one by one. The judge looked exhausted by the entire mess and finally ordered Vanessa to reimburse an additional $19,000 for affair-related expenses she'd funded with marital money. Her payments multiplied. She was drowning financially. I felt nothing except relief I'd escaped. Around that time, strange things began happening. G1 mentioned getting friend requests from blank accounts, generic names, no photos, no followers. More came each day. Then messages, long anonymous warnings claiming I'd abandoned Vanessa, that I had commitment issues, that I'd end up doing the same to G1. They referenced details only Vanessa would know. The writing style was unmistakable. Then it escalated. G1 started seeing Vanessa in physical spaces, Her coffee shop, grocery store, bookstore, always at a distance, always watching, never speaking, just existing nearby in a way that made everything feel wrong. Jiwon changed her routines. New coffee shop, new grocery store, varied schedules, unpredictable routes home. It was exhausting watching her rearrange her life because my ex-wife refused to accept reality. One evening, she sat me down. "I'm questioning if this relationship is sustainable," she said quietly. "Your ex is everywhere." I didn't move across the world to be harassed by someone I've never wronged. She was right. I'd hoped Vanessa would simply burn out. She hadn't. "1 week," I said. "If it's not resolved by then, I'll understand if you walk." "Okay, 1 week." Next morning, I went to Vanessa's apartment. She answered in sweatpants, hair unwashed. "Stop contacting Jiwon," I said. "The fake accounts, the stalking, it ends now." "I don't know what you're—" "Don't insult both of us. It ends today." Her face twisted. "You moved on like I never mattered. Like 10 years meant nothing. Stay away from us." She stared, then nodded. But it didn't stop. More accounts. More sightings. Jiwon saw her outside her workplace 3 days later, just standing across the street. My brother filed for a restraining order. He compiled everything. Screenshots, witness statements, logs of every appearance. Filing took 2 weeks. Hearing scheduled another 3 weeks out. Vanessa was served notice. She violated before the hearing even happened by showing up at Jiwon's workplace, this time claiming she was just delivering a letter. Security called police. She was arrested in the lobby. At the hearing 2 days later, the judge reviewed the arrest report, the evidence my brother had compiled, and the pattern of escalating behavior. Granted a 3-year restraining order, mandatory distance, no direct or indirect contact. My brother filed a defamation suit next. The anonymous messages claiming I'd isolated her, controlled finances, cheated first. All provably false. Her attorney tried negotiating a settlement. We refused. Went to trial instead. Trial lasted 3 days, spread over 2 weeks. The judge reviewed the evidence methodically. Screenshots, message logs, witness testimony. Ruled in our favor. $32,000 in damages. Payable over 4 years. Harassment stopped after her arrest. The restraining order had finally conveyed what nothing else had. She no longer had access to my life. Jiwon relaxed. Returned to her favorite coffee shop. Stopped checking behind her constantly. Her shoulders dropped. Her voice lightened. It was the first time in months she seemed unburdened. One evening at home, she looked at me over dinner and said, "I'm glad she can't reach us anymore." I didn't realize how much space she was taking up until she wasn't. I knew exactly what she meant. Winter came. 1.5 years since filing for divorce. Things were stable. Better than stable. Jiwon and I had found a rhythm. Work was good. Life was good. Then she got offered a position in Seattle. Better opportunity. More creative freedom. Higher salary. Working with a design collective she'd admired for years. Everything she'd been working toward. She wanted me to come with her. "I need to know if you're in this or coasting," she said one evening over dinner. "Because this is a real decision. It's uprooting everything. Moving across the country. Starting completely over. I need to know if you're actually committed to building a life with me or if you're just comfortable with how things are right now." First real conflict we'd had in months, and I realized she was right to question it. I'd been comfortable. Been coasting. Letting things happen instead of actively choosing them. Instead of giving her a speech about commitment or asking for time to think about it, I spent the next 3 days actually doing something about it. Called my boss first. Explained the situation. Asked if I could work remotely from Seattle. He took a day to think about it. Called me back and said yes. The position was mostly analysis and optimization anyway. Didn't require me to be physically present. As long as I could make quarterly trips back for planning meetings, he was fine with it. Then I started actually researching what moving would mean. Called a realtor Jiwon had mentioned. Started looking at neighborhoods and what our budget could get us. Checked cost of living differences. Job market stability in case remote work didn't pan out long term. 3 days after she'd asked, I came back with specifics. Remote work approval. Realtor contact. Neighborhoods I'd researched. Budget breakdown. Timeline for when we could realistically move. "You're sure?" she asked, looking at everything I'd put together. "I'm choosing you. Not because you're convenient. Not because I'm afraid of being alone. Because being with you requires me to actually show up and be present instead of just coasting through life. Because you make me want to be better than I was." She searched my face for hesitation. Didn't find any this time. "Okay then. Let's do it." I gave notice at work 3 weeks later. They were disappointed but understood. Offered to keep me on remotely, which made the transition easier financially. threw me a small going-away lunch that was awkward but nice. G1 gave notice at hers. They threw her a proper going-away party. I met more of her colleagues. Started understanding her professional life in a way I'd never understood Vanessa's. Because I actually asked questions. Actually listened to the answers instead of just waiting for my turn to talk about railway logistics. 6 weeks before the move, I was at my gym on a Saturday morning doing my usual routine. Saw her in the mirror while I was on the rowing machine. Vanessa, standing at the entrance, watching me. I got off the machine and walked straight toward her. She froze when she realized I'd seen her. You need to leave. Now. You're violating the restraining order. I'm just trying to work out. This is a public place. The order says you stay 300 feet away from me. You came here knowing I'd be here. That's a violation. People nearby stopped their workouts to watch. I wanted to apologize. Face to face. Letters don't feel real. Up close, she looked different. Exhausted. Eyes shadowed. Clothes hanging off her like they no longer fit. Weight lost in the way that means stress, not effort. I know I destroyed everything, she said quietly. I know there's no fixing it. I just wanted to apologize properly, not in something you delete without reading. Her voice wasn't manipulative or dramatic, just worn down. But it didn't matter. You can't fix this. Leave. I know. Her voice cracked. I'm scared. I'm alone. I'm broke. I'm 32 and starting over with nothing because I threw away the one person who cared about me. For someone who never wanted me. How pathetic is that? 2 gym staff approached. I told them she had a restraining order against her. They escorted her out while she cried. She didn't fight, just went. That was the last time I saw her. 6 weeks later, Jiwon and I moved to Seattle. Bought a small house near Green Lake. 2 bedrooms, small yard, ours. We painted rooms together on weekends. Argued about colors and furniture placement, and whether we needed a dining table. Normal couple arguments. Shared decisions instead of silent resentments. A year and a half post-divorce, we went to a wedding. College friends. People who'd known both me and Vanessa. Some asked polite questions. How the divorce happened, whether we were both doing okay. I kept it short. Said we wanted different things and went separate ways. No details. One person asked if I was happy now. I said yes. They said I looked lighter than I had in years. Said they'd noticed I'd seemed stressed near the end of my marriage, but hadn't wanted to say anything. Driving home, Jiwon asked if I ever regretted any of it. If I wondered what would have happened had I tried harder with Vanessa or given her another chance. No, not even a little. She took my hand. Good, because I don't regret anything either. We have normal friction. Where to put furniture, whose family to visit, who forgot trash day. But we deal with it. We talk. We argue and resolve. No cold silences. No disappearing acts. No games. We chose a house together. Built routines together. Built a life that didn't exist before both of us put effort into it. I found something real with Jiwon. Not convenience, not habit, not fear of being alone. Something built deliberately, with intention on both sides. Something solid. Something earned. Guys, we are so close to hit 100,000 subscribers on this channel. If you are not subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing. It really helps hit that 100,000 mark. Thanks for making this dream come true. My wife said, sleeping with you is a chore, like cleaning and cooking. I don't want any of it anymore. In front of her friends. When I walked out, I found out something that made me ruin her life forever. Now she is begging. Sup Reddit. So I, 45 male, met Kristen, 46 female, at a supply chain conference in Denver. She was working at a pharmaceutical booth. I was reviewing vendor contracts for a manufacturing company. We grabbed dinner that night. She talked about crushing quota. I told her about going independent, clearing 85 grand analyzing supply chains from my apartment in Boulder. Long distance lasted 6 months. By spring, she moved to Colorado. Courthouse wedding that summer, just immediate family. Her parents Gerald and Helen from Scottsdale, my aunt and uncle from Montana. Megan came about a year later. Carson followed 4 years after that. Kristen took maternity leave both times. Jumped back into sales fast. I worked from home. Handled most of the parenting. First years were survival mode, but we made it work. Things shifted hard around our 17th year of marriage. Kristen started pulling back from everything at home. The cooking stopped first, then the cleaning. Said she was exhausted from work, needed to decompress. I picked up the slack without complaining initially. Megan had turned into her mother's mini-me at 16. Same entitled attitude, the eye rolls, the sighs and disappear when I asked her to help. Kristen encouraged it, called it independence. By the time she turned 17 in January, She barely acknowledged my existence unless she needed money or a ride. I noticed. I always notice. I just don't react until I'm ready. February. I hit my limit. Came home from a client meeting to find dishes piled in the sink for 4 days. Laundry overflowing in the hallway. Kristen and Megan watching reality TV like nothing existed outside their bubble. I handled Carson most evenings. Homework help, dinner, bedtime became our routine. Kid didn't complain. He was 12, mostly wanted to play Fortnite anyway. I stood in the doorway that Tuesday evening, looked at the mess, then at them sprawled across the sectional. Neither of you are going to help with any of this? Kristen didn't look up from her phone. I had a brutal day, Connor. 3 client calls back to back. Can you just handle it tonight? You've had a brutal day every day for 5 months. I'm working too. I'm also cooking every meal, doing all the laundry, cleaning the bathrooms, helping Carson with homework. What exactly are you contributing? Megan rolled her eyes. God, Dad, why are you always nagging? Mom works way harder than you. She actually has a real job with real pressure. You just sit at a computer in your sweatpants. Cold settled in my chest. The calm before decisions get made. A real job? I cleared $92,000 last year from that computer. I also managed to cook dinner every night, keep the house clean, and be present for both of you. What's your excuse for not even loading a dishwasher? Kristen finally looked at me. Something flickered behind her eyes. Almost apologetic. You're right. I'm sorry. Work has just been insane with the new territory restructuring. I promise I'll do better once things calm down. Megan, you should help more too. Megan shrugged. Fine. Whatever. Empty promises. Both of them. But I logged the exchange in my head, added it to the mental file I'd been building for months. 2 weeks later, Kristen proposed the annual lake cabin trip with her college friends. 6 couples, 3 days at Lake Dillon. We'd gone the past several years. The trip was scheduled for late May, giving us a few months to prepare. She brought it up while I was folding laundry Saturday morning. Her laundry, specifically. The basket she'd left untouched for 9 days. The cabin trip is late May. Should be good this year. I nodded, kept folding. Week before the trip, Kristen went shopping like she was preparing for Fashion Week. New hiking outfits, new swimsuits, new everything. $412 at REI alone. Another $200 at Athleta. I threw 3 t-shirts and swim trunks in a duffel bag. Friday morning in late May, we loaded bags into the Subaru. Megan stayed home because she had important plans with friends. I drove while Kristen texted constantly. Carson was staying with my Aunt Kathy in Boulder for the weekend. Megan had been supposed to watch him while we were gone, but she dropped him at Kathy's Thursday night, claiming she had important plans she couldn't cancel. Didn't even ask me first. Just did it. When I'd called to check on him Friday morning, Kathy said Megan had barely stayed 5 minutes before rushing off. Some friend she was. The weekend was about to right itself. We rolled up around 2. Big wooden A-frame structure. 3 stories. Massive wraparound deck overlooking the water. 5 other cars already parked in the gravel lot. I grabbed bags while Kristen rushed ahead to greet everyone. The group was in the kitchen unpacking coolers. Zoe hugged Kristen enthusiastically, then gave me a warm welcome. Ryan gave me that knowing nod we'd developed over 20 years of friendship. Blake pulled up 30 minutes later in a new Audi Q5. Turned out Heather had invited Kristen's ex from college who'd just moved back to Colorado. Kristen spotted it through the window and practically sprinted outside. I watched from the kitchen island as they embraced, his hand resting on her lower back, her smile brighter than I'd seen in months. He came inside all confidence and charm. Expensive watch, styled hair, polished sales director energy. Shook my hand with practiced firmness. Connor, man, great to finally meet you properly. Likewise. Kristen's mentioned you exactly twice in 18 years. His smile faltered for half a second. Kristen shot me a look. First evening went smooth enough. Grilled steaks, played cards as the sun dropped behind the mountains. Blake fit into the group seamlessly. The wives seemed charmed. Kristen positioned herself near him throughout dinner, old friends catching up. Saturday morning brought a group hike through the Aspens. Blake walked beside Kristen for most of the trail, the two of them deep in animated conversation about old times and inside jokes nobody else understood. I hung back with Ryan, taking in the mountain scenery. They seem awfully friendly up there. Old college friends reconnecting. You're really okay with this? I'm watching her show everyone exactly who she is. That's worth more than jealousy. Ryan stared at me. Jesus, man. Back at the cabin for lunch, Kristen sat between Blake and Zoe at the long farmhouse table. That afternoon, most people napped. Kristen and Blake volunteered to take kayaks out. Gone almost 90 minutes. You should have joined us out there. Looked like you were having fun without me. Blake's hilarious. Forgot how much energy he brings. I noticed. She caught my tone but didn't engage. Dinner Saturday was a full group production. Everyone cooking, wine flowing, energy building. Kristen and Blake entertained the table with college stories that had people laughing until they cried. Then came the fire pit. By the time we migrated outside after cleaning up dinner, I was feeling almost relaxed. Temperature was perfect for late May, stars starting to emerge overhead. Someone got a proper fire going while people arranged chairs and grabbed blankets. I claimed a spot on a thick log bench with a clear view of everything. Kristen sat next to me initially, her hand on my knee. 20 minutes in, Blake stood up and repositioned his chair closer to the flames. Said something about wanting a better view of the constellations. Then he looked at Kristen. Hey V, come check this out. You can actually see Orion perfectly from here. She got up without hesitation. Stood beside him, their shoulders touching as he traced invisible lines between stars. I watched from across the fire, expression neutral. Then Kristen dragged her chair over, planted it directly beside Blake's. The group got noticeably quiet. Zoe's eyes flickered between me and them. Someone cracked a weak joke. Conversation slowly resumed, but Kristen stayed right where she was. As the evening wore on, Blake's hand eventually came to rest on her knee, not hidden, right there for everyone to witness. I sipped my water slowly, waited, then gravel crunched. Headlights swept through the pine trees. A car door slammed. Megan walked into the firelight. Megan, what are you doing here? She looked past me toward her mother. Kristen's face lit up. Surprise! I invited her up this afternoon. Thought it'd be nice to have her here for the rest of the weekend. You invited her to an adult couples trip without telling me? It's basically a family trip. She's family. Megan walked over and positioned herself on Kristen's other side. The three of them arranged together now. Blake, Kristen, Megan. Deliberate formation. Megan looked at me across the dancing flames with something cold and victorious. Blake leaned close and whispered something in Kristen's ear. She giggled loud enough for everyone to hear. Her hand went to rest on his chest. His arm wrapped around her shoulders. Megan smiled. Not shocked. Not uncomfortable. Smiled like she was watching exactly what she expected. Zoe stood up abruptly. Kristen, what exactly are you doing right now? I'm enjoying myself with someone who actually appreciates my company. Is that suddenly illegal? Ryan's jaw tightened. That's your husband sitting right there. My boring husband who works from home in sweatpants all day. Who never takes me anywhere exciting anymore. Who treats me like a roommate instead of a woman who has needs. She turned and locked eyes with me across the fire. Smiled with that condescending, pitying expression. Sleeping with you is a chore, Connor. Like cleaning and cooking. Just something I have to check off to keep the household running. You want the truth? That's the truth. Absolute silence. Everyone frozen. Zoe looked horrified. Ryan froze mid-motion. Megan broke it. My 17-year-old daughter speaking up for the first time. Mom's been unhappy for years, Dad. You're just too oblivious to notice. You're boring. You're predictable. You're why we're all miserable in that house. Honestly, sometimes I wish you'd just die so we could actually live. I stared at my daughter. Processing. I set down my water deliberately. Stood up slowly. Appreciate the honesty. Both of you. Kristen rolled her eyes. Don't be dramatic about it. I'm just finally being honest after years of pretending. No, I mean it. You've both just shown everyone here exactly who you really are. That's worth something. I looked at Ryan. Thanks for the hospitality. Appreciate you having us. Connor, wait! I turned to Megan. You drove here yourself. You can drive back whenever you want, or ride with your mother and her boyfriend. Your call. Her face went white. And Kristen, enjoy the rest of your weekend. Make the most of it, because these will be your last good days. I walked toward the cabin. Didn't rush, didn't storm off. Just moved with quiet purpose while voices erupted behind me. Grabbed my duffel bag, checked I had my wallet and keys, and headed straight for the Subaru. Got in, started the engine, backed out of the gravel lot while shadows moved on the deck. People arguing, gesturing. Didn't matter anymore. 3 hours home alone. Classic rock playing low. Windows cracked open. The cold mountain air helped me think with perfect clarity about what came next. Got home around 1 in the morning. House was dark and empty. Carson was safe at Kathy's. I'd pick him up in the morning, explain everything when he was older and could understand. For now, I sat alone in the kitchen, phone lighting up constantly. From Kristen demanding I come back. From Megan calling me pathetic. From Zoe apologizing profusely. From Ryan asking if I was okay. I ignored all of them. Sunday morning, I picked up Carson from Kathy's and made him breakfast instead. Scrambled eggs and toast. Put on ESPN. Kristen showed up around noon, pounding on the door demanding to be let in. I didn't answer. The pounding continued for maybe 20 minutes before finally stopping. I watched through the blinds as she climbed into an Uber, probably heading to her parents' place in Scottsdale. Fine by me. That afternoon, I started digging through Kristen's digital footprint, while Carson was at a friend's house. Her iCloud had been synced to the family computer since she set it up years ago. Never bothered changing the password, because she never imagined I'd actually look. Found everything within 2 hours. Texts with Blake going back 4 months. Hundreds of them. Photos I wish I could unsee. Videos that made my stomach turn. Location data showing overnight stays at his downtown condo on nights she claimed she was at regional sales conferences. Hotel receipts for romantic weekend getaways I never knew existed. The "sleeping with you is a chore" comment at the cabin wasn't just cruelty, it was the truth. She'd been getting what she needed elsewhere for months while treating me like the household manager. But the real gut punch was the text with Megan. Mother and daughter had been coordinating this entire deception together. Megan giving real-time updates on my schedule, covering for Kristen's absences, running interference whenever I got suspicious. One text from March made my blood run cold. Dad's taking Carson to his basketball game Saturday afternoon. You and your friend have the whole house to yourselves for hours. He's so completely clueless, lol. Have fun, mommy. I saved everything to 3 separate drives. Printed hard copies of the worst exchanges. Forwarded backups to a secure email account. Then I called my lawyer and scheduled Monday morning. Monday afternoon, I came home early from a client meeting to grab files I'd forgotten. House was empty. Carson at basketball practice. Kristen still at the cabin, presumably. I noticed it immediately when I walked past my office that I hadn't entered in 3 weeks. The empty space on the bookshelf where my grandfather's pocket watch had sat for 15 years. 18-karat gold. Passed down through 3 generations. Worth maybe $8,000, but priceless for what it represented. The only physical thing connecting me to a man who meant everything to me growing up. Gone. I searched the entire office. Then the house. Nothing. Called my Aunt Kathy. Did Carson mention anything about my grandfather's watch? No. Why would he? He knows not to touch that. It's missing. Connor. That boy has known not to touch that watch since he was 5 years old. He wouldn't. I checked the bank accounts. My personal account showed no unusual activity. Kristen's showed a deposit from 2 weeks ago. $7,800 from Mile High Gold and estate buyers. Everything went cold and clear. I sat at my desk for 20 minutes, thinking, calculating. Then I drove to the beauty supply store. Kristen had always been obsessive about her hair. Salon appointments every 6 weeks. High-end products that cost more than groceries. That thick auburn hair was her favorite thing about herself. She'd mentioned once she'd rather lose a limb than lose her hair. I bought professional-grade hair removal cream, the kind for chemical depilation. Went home and carefully mixed a measured amount into her expensive shampoo bottle. Not enough for chemical burns. Just enough to guarantee significant loss over the next few washes. Then I waited. Kristen came back Tuesday evening. Let herself in like nothing had happened. I was in my office when I heard her moving around upstairs. Carson was still at practice. I heard the shower turn on. Heard the water running for her usual 20 minutes. Then silence. Then I heard it. A sound I'd never heard from Kristen before. A high-pitched, strangled noise. I waited. Footsteps pounding down the stairs. Fast. Panicked. She appeared in my doorway, soaking wet, wrapped in a towel. Her hair was still damp, and in her trembling hands, she held clumps of it. Thick auburn strands coming out in patches. Connor. Her voice shook. Something's wrong. My hair is falling out. Look at this. Look at this. I leaned back in my chair, looked at the hair in her hands, at the visible patches of scalp showing through. Let a slow smile cross my face. Wow, that's rough. This isn't funny. Something's wrong with my shampoo. Did you do something to it? Me? Why would I do anything to your shampoo? Because you're angry about the cabin. Because you're trying to punish me. I stood up slowly, walked closer to get a better look. The damage was significant. Large sections coming out at the roots. Almost looks like chemical hair loss. Like someone used depilatory cream or something. Must be stressful, losing your hair like that. Her face went from panicked to furious. You did this. I know you did this. Prove it. She was shaking now, still clutching the wet clumps of hair. I'm calling the police. Go ahead. Explain to them why you were using shampoo at a house you don't live at anymore. After what you did at that cabin. This is my house, too. Is it? Let's talk about that, actually. I walked back to my desk, picked up the bank statement I'd printed. Let's talk about the $7,800 you deposited 2 weeks ago from Mile High Gold and Estate Buyers. Her face went white. Where's my grandfather's watch, Kristen? Silence. Where is it? I needed money for... You sold my grandfather's watch, the only thing I have left from him, to fund hotel rooms with Blake. It was just sitting there collecting dust. You never even wore it. Something cold and permanent settled in my chest. Get out. What? Get out of my house. Right now. She looked down at the hair still in her hands, then back at me. You can't kick me out. This is my house, too. You can't just... I can, and I am. You sold a 3-generation family heirloom to pay for your affair. You told me sleeping with me was a chore in front of everyone we know. You turned our daughter into your accomplice. And now you stand here with your hair falling out and expect what? Sympathy. Connor, please. You have 5 minutes to get dressed and get out before I call the police. You're doing this because of the hair? Because I'm upset about my hair? I'm doing this because you sold my grandfather's watch. Because you're a liar and a cheat who involved our daughter in your affair. The hair? That's just karma. She ran back upstairs. I heard frantic movement, drawers slamming. She came back down 4 minutes later, dressed, still dripping, more hair coming out as she moved. This isn't over, Connor. When I'm done with you in court, you won't have this house, you won't have money, and you won't have Carson. Looking forward to it. She grabbed her purse and keys, slammed the door hard enough to shake the frame. I sat in the dark for a long time after that, thinking about what came next. Friday morning, my phone exploded. 17 missed calls, 43 texts, each one more hysterical than the last. I let it ring. Finally answered on attempt 18. What did you do to me? My hair is falling out in clumps. Still? Might want to see a doctor about that. Stress-related hair loss can be serious. Don't play games. I know what you put in my shampoo. I have no idea what you're talking about. I'm going to the police. With what evidence? Good luck explaining selling your husband's family heirlooms to fund your affair. Silence. Then her voice went cold. You're going to pay for this. I'm taking everything in the divorce. The house, the retirement accounts. Full custody of both kids. We'll see. She hung up. Saturday afternoon, Kristen showed up with Megan in tow, both of them standing on my porch with matching expressions of righteous fury. Kristen was wearing a hat pulled low. When she yanked it off to show me, I could see how much worse it had gotten. Massive patches completely bald. What remained was thin and breaking. I leaned against the doorframe, studied the damage. Wow, still falling out? That's really unfortunate. Have you considered just shaving it all off? Might look better than whatever this is. You monster, Megan hissed. Look what you did to her. I didn't do anything, but I have to say the new look is bold. Very chemo chic. Kristen's hands were shaking. You put something in my shampoo and we both know it. Prove it. File a police report. Explain why you were in my house using my products. This is my house too. Actually, let's talk about rights and ownership. Since you brought it up, I straightened from the doorframe. You sold my grandfather's watch without my permission. That's theft of marital assets. You used that money to fund an affair. That's dissipation of marital property. And then you had the audacity to tell me sleeping with me was a chore in front of everyone we know. Megan looked between us, confused. What's he talking about? What watch? Your mother sold your great-grandfather's pocket watch. 3 generations of family history, worth $8,000. Sold it to pay for hotel rooms with Blake. It was just sitting there, Kristen shrieked. Just collecting dust. My hair was the only beautiful thing I had left, and now look at me. Your hair is more important than Carson's inheritance? Yes, because I have to look at myself every day. That watch was just junk on a shelf. Megan stared at her mother, something shifting in her expression. I pulled out my phone, dialed 911. What are you doing? Kristen's voice went shrill. Calling the police. You're trespassing on my property. Mom, we should go, Megan said quietly, tugging her arm. No, I'm not going anywhere. He can't just... I gave my address to the dispatcher. 2 individuals refusing to leave after being asked multiple times. You have about 8 minutes, I said calmly. I suggest you're gone by then. Megan pulled harder. Mom, let's go. Now. Kristen grabbed her hat, jammed it back on her damaged head. This isn't over. Not even close. They left. The police showed up 6 minutes later. I filed a trespassing report. Sat on my porch after they'd gone. Felt absolutely nothing. The divorce was brutal. But not for me. My lawyer did father's rights work. He scanned my evidence and started mapping temporary orders, not fantasies. Texts proving coordinated deception with the minor child. Dissipation from the affair. Trespass report. Witnesses. School records. What about the shampoo? What shampoo? I don't see any evidence of anything. Exactly. Colorado is no fault, so adultery didn't matter. The money did. Every hotel, dinner, trip, and the heirloom sale got logged as dissipation and theft of marital assets. The court ordered a CFI. Kathy spoke. Carson's coach spoke. Ryan testified about the cabin. Kristen showed up angry, scattered, and couldn't answer basic questions about Carson's schedule. Judge cared about stability, not her excuses. Temporary orders kept Carson with me. Kristen got supervised parenting time at first, with a step-up plan tied to an evaluation and consistent behavior. I kept the house, primary custody, most liquid assets and retirement accounts. She kept her car, personal stuff, and a mountain of legal fees. Megan, now 18, chose to stay with her mother full-time. Made that declaration formally in court. Said she wanted nothing to do with me ever again. Her choice. Blake disappeared the moment legal proceedings started. Blocked Kristen on everything. Told mutual friends he wasn't looking for that kind of drama. Convenient. He got to play the caring boyfriend when it was fun and exciting, then vanished the second real consequences appeared. Left Kristen holding the bag entirely. But I wasn't done with Blake. I'd done my homework during the divorce. Blake worked as regional sales director for a medical device company, one of the big ones with corporate offices in Minnesota. I spent 3 evenings reviewing their publicly available ethics policies and employee handbook. They had strict rules. Relationships with married clients or business partners were explicitly forbidden. Creating reputational risk for the company was grounds for immediate termination. Kristen had been a pharmaceutical sales rep. Their industries overlapped constantly at conferences, trade shows, professional networking events. They'd likely met at dozens of the same venues over the years. Professional contacts everywhere who knew them both. I compiled everything methodically. Photos from the cabin showing Blake with his arm around a married woman. Screenshots of texts between Kristen and Blake discussing their relationship while she was still married, complete with timestamps and metadata. Receipts from hotels charged to his corporate card during business trips that coincidentally aligned perfectly with Kristen's schedule. Conference registrations showing them both attending the same events in different cities while claiming to be there for business. The package was thorough, professional, and completely damning. I created an anonymous email account, sent everything to his company's ethics hotline with a simple subject line: Regional Sales Director Blake, Ethics Violation Documentation. Then sent copies to their HR department and his direct supervisor for good measure. Blake was fired within 2 weeks. I heard through Ryan, who heard from someone in that industry circle. Blake tried to fight it initially, threatened legal action, claimed the relationship started after Kristen's separation. But the timestamps on the texts and hotel receipts made that impossible to defend. The company's legal team reviewed everything and determined he'd violated multiple ethics policies and used company resources to facilitate an affair with a married woman in his professional network. Gone. 24 hours to clear his desk. Word spread fast in their industry. Medical device and pharmaceutical sales is a small world where everyone knows everyone. His reputation was radioactive. His LinkedIn showed open to work for 8 months before he finally found something. Different state, different industry entirely. Selling insurance or some equally mundane product. Significant pay cut from his previous 6-figure director position. When I heard through Ryan that Blake had lost his job, I felt absolutely nothing. Actions have consequences. He learned that the hard way. By December, Kristen had lost her job too. Pharmaceutical companies don't love when their sales reps show up to client meetings with obvious hair loss and barely concealed emotional instability. The stress of the divorce, legal fees, public humiliation, it all compounded. No more 6-figure income. No more President's Club trips. No more VP ambitions. She moved to Scottsdale with her parents, Gerald and Helen's house in the suburbs, trying to figure out how everything fell apart. I should have felt bad about how thoroughly her life imploded. Tried real hard to feel guilty. Nothing. Every time I questioned myself, I'd remember her saying sleeping with me was a chore. Remember Megan telling me to die. Remember my grandfather's watch sold to fund hotel rooms. Then I'd feel just fine. Carson thrived. Grades improved dramatically. He seemed lighter, like a weight had been lifted. He did supervised visits without complaint, but never asked to see her more. Kids aren't stupid. They know who shows up. I rebuilt my consulting business. Cleared $130,000 by November. Started dating Morgan, a legal assistant Ryan's wife introduced me to. Straightforward, honest, didn't play games. Revolutionary after 18 years of manipulation. I thought it was over. Then the begging started. First week of March, about 10 months after the cabin, Helen called from a number I didn't recognize. Connor, we need to talk. About Kristen and Megan. Not my problem anymore, Helen. Gerald and I can't keep doing this. We're 72 and 70 years old. Kristen lost the condo we co-signed on. Her legal bills wiped out her savings. Megan won't work. Just parties constantly. Still not my problem. She's your daughter, Connor. She's an adult who made her choice. She made a mistake. She's only 18. At 17, she helped her mother cheat for 4 months. Showed up at that cabin to humiliate me. Called me furniture. Told me to die. That's not a mistake. That's a pattern. Silence. We lost our house. The bank foreclosed last week. We're living in a motel. All 4 of us in one room. Gerald's pension barely covers it. That sounds difficult. Have you no compassion? I had plenty for 18 years. Until your daughter compared sleeping with me to a household chore in front of everyone. Until Megan helped her cheat. Until Kristen sold my grandfather's watch to fund hotel rooms. Compassion has limits. So you'll let your own child suffer? My child is Carson. He's doing great. Honor roll, varsity basketball starter, happiest I've seen him in years. Megan chose to be her mother's accomplice. She's 18. Adult decisions come with adult consequences. Helen's voice cracked. Please. We're desperate. Gerald's health isn't good. We just need help getting back on our feet. No. Connor, your daughter destroyed my marriage, turned my child into her accomplice, sold my grandfather's watch, then tried to frame me as the villain. Now you want me to fund her recovery? That's insane. What about Megan? Forget Kristen. Just help your daughter. She had my guidance for 17 years. She chose to ignore all of it. She texted updates on my schedule, called me boring furniture, told me to die. Let her figure out who she wants to be next on her own. You're heartless. I'm done being anyone's safety net. You all made your choices. Live with them. I hung up, blocked the number. Morgan came over that evening. I told her about the call. They're asking for money? Sounds like they've lost everything. And you said no. Without hesitation. She squeezed my hand. Good. You don't owe them a rescue mission. 2 weeks later, Megan showed up at my door. Saturday morning, making breakfast for Carson when the doorbell rang. She stood on my porch looking smaller than I remembered. Thinner. Exhausted. Dark circles under her eyes. Can we talk? No. Please, Dad. Just 5 minutes. You had 17 years. You spent them helping your mom cheat and telling me to die. We're done. I'm sorry. I didn't understand. You understood perfectly. You just didn't care about consequences. Now you're facing them and want me to make them disappear. Not happening. I just want to apologize properly. Your apology means nothing. Apologies are words anyone can say. You showed me who you are through your actions. I believe what you showed me. Can't you give me one chance to prove I've changed? You've had 6 months since the divorce to show me. Instead, you dropped out of school and party constantly. That's not change. That's panic when the safety net disappeared. Her eyes filled with tears. I didn't know where else to go. Should have thought about that before you chose Team Mom. Before you showed up at that cabin to help humiliate me. Before you told me to die. I was stupid and young. You thought I was a doormat who'd take whatever abuse you both decided to dish out. You were wrong. Leave my property. Dad, please. I'm not your dad anymore. You gave that up. Don't come back. I closed the door, watched through the window as she stood there crying for 5 minutes before walking to the bus stop. Carson had heard the exchange. That was harsh. She made her choice. This is what consequences look like. She came back twice more over the next month. Once alone, once with Helen. Same tears, same speeches about being young and stupid. Same answer. Door closed. Felt nothing. Life moved forward. 2.5 years after that night at the cabin, Carson was 15. Sophomore year, varsity basketball starter, maintaining a 3.8 GPA. Thriving. We'd built a genuinely good life together. Morgan had moved in during the summer. Things between us were solid. She brought quiet strength without trying to fix what wasn't broken. Then the doorbell rang one Saturday morning. I opened it to find all 4 of them on my porch in the November cold. Kristen, Megan, Gerald, Helen, and a rental SUV parked in my driveway. Stuffed tight. Megan was clutching a manila folder with receipts. Cheap paper. I'm sorry, Dad. 19 years old, gripping paperwork like it could save her. I leaned against the doorframe. You've got to be kidding. Kristen stepped forward. Connor, please, just hear us out. No. I've been through anger management. Therapy twice a week. I've worked on myself. I'm not the same person. When you called sleeping with me a chore, When you sold my grandfather's watch to fund hotel rooms? Which version aren't you? All of it. I've changed completely. Megan needs her father. I looked at Megan. The folder trembled in her grip. She'd lost more weight, dark circles like bruises. Megan told me I was boring furniture, told me to die, helped you sneak around with Blake, texted you updates on my schedule. At 17, she knew exactly what she was choosing. I taught her that. I poisoned her against you. It's my fault, not hers. Gerald cleared his throat. Connor, I'm not defending what they did, but Helen and I lost our house. We're 74 and 72 years old. We can't support them both anymore. Maybe you should have raised her with better values the first time. He flinched. Kristen lowered herself to her knees on my cold porch. Please. I'm begging you, not for me. I know I don't deserve anything. For Megan. She needs her father. Megan's voice came out small. I'm sorry, Dad. I believed Mom when she told me you were the problem. I was stupid and wrong. Helen produced an envelope. We wrote it all down. A complete apology, taking full responsibility. She tried to hand it to me. I didn't move. And the SUV? Gerald exhaled heavily. We got kicked out 3 weeks ago. Couldn't make rent. Everything we own is in those bags. We thought maybe... You thought you could just move in with me. Silence. Their desperate faces said everything. I looked at this pathetic scene. My ex-wife on her knees. Her elderly parents broken and exhausted. My daughter clutching a folder like proof of change. A rental SUV stuffed with everything they owned because they'd burned every bridge, and I was the last stop. 2 years ago, this might have worked. Some previous version of Connor might have caved to guilt or family obligation. But I'd spent 2 years learning I was worth more than being someone's safety net, more than being furniture, more than being the backup plan they only remembered when everything else failed. No, Kristen looked up. No, no to all of it. You cannot move in. We are not reconciling. You don't get to use Megan as leverage. Connor, please. When Megan made her choice, she told me to die. Said I was boring furniture that should have been thrown out. She made those choices with full awareness. You both did. Now you live with every single one. I pulled out my phone. Gerald stepped forward. What are you doing? Calling the police. You're trespassing. We'll leave immediately. You showed up unannounced with a moving truck, expecting to guilt and manipulate your way back into my life. That's not a reunion. That's an ambush. And I don't tolerate ambushes. I dialed, gave my address, explained there were 4 individuals refusing to leave my property. They'll be here in 10 minutes. I suggest you're gone before they arrive. Gerald grabbed Helen's arm, started pulling her toward the SUV. Kristen scrambled to her feet, mascara running. Is this really who you want to be? Someone who lets his own daughter suffer just to punish her mother? You think you made me this person? Wrong. I was always this person underneath. You just stopped paying attention after you decided I was boring furniture not worth noticing. Now you're facing someone who knows exactly what he's worth. I looked at Megan one final time. She'd dropped the folder. Just stood there crying, finally understanding some bridges can never be rebuilt once you burn them completely. Part of me felt something stir. The dad part that never fully dies. The part that remembered teaching her to ride a bicycle and helping with impossible math homework and being present for 17 years. But then I remembered her face when she called me furniture. Her texts about how pathetic I was. Her showing up at that cabin to help her mother humiliate me. Her telling me to die. At 17, she wasn't a helpless child. She was old enough to choose deliberately. And she chose. Goodbye, Kristen. I closed the door, watched through the window as they hurriedly loaded back into the SUV. The police cruiser turned onto our street just as they were pulling out. The officer took my statement, documented everything, wrote up the trespassing report. Carson came downstairs while the officer was finishing, looked at me with those clear eyes that understood more than most teenagers. They showed up again? Last time. I made that clear. Good. The officer left. I made us breakfast. Scrambled eggs, toast, orange juice. Morgan joined us, kissed the top of my head, poured coffee. Didn't ask questions she already knew the answers to. Normal life, built on boundaries and self-respect instead of guilt and obligation. Guys, we are so close to hit 100,000 subscribers on this channel. If you are not subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing. It really helps hit that 100,000 mark. Thanks for making this dream come true.